The sound of waves crashing against the shore was always soothing, a lullaby that reminded me of summer days spent without a care in the world. But tonight, it only amplified the silence in my heart. I stood by the large windows of the beach house I had paid for with my own hard-earned money, staring out at the endless ocean, trying to calm my thoughts. My name is Emily Lancaster. I'm 34 years old, born and raised in San Francisco, where I built a career as an interior designer. I was always the one who took care of everything: my business, my home, my husband. Ryan and I had been married for 7 years, and for the longest time, I thought we had everything figured out. But the cracks had started to show recently. Ryan, my husband, had become distant. His late nights at the office, his excuses, his avoidance. He swore everything was fine, but I knew better. I could feel it in my gut. Tonight, though, I thought we could reconnect. I thought maybe a weekend at our beach house would do the trick. We needed some time alone, away from everything. But as I watched him walk toward the door, my heart skipped a beat. There was something about the way he held his keys in his hand, the way his eyes seemed to dart around nervously. Something was off. Then, I heard the footsteps, the sound of heels clicking against the hardwood floor. Not his. They were too high, too sharp. I froze. He wasn't alone. The door opened, and in walked a woman I had never seen before. Tall, blonde, dressed in a red dress that clung to her body in all the right places. She was laughing, talking to Ryan in a way I had never seen him interact with anyone. That wasn't the worst part, though. The worst part was that they didn't know I was there, watching them. My heart pounded as I stepped back, trying to stay hidden behind the kitchen counter. I had to be quiet. I had to see what was going on. But just then, the doorbell rang, and I recognized the voice. It was her husband. I held my breath as I watched Ryan's mistress walk into the living room. I could hear her laughter as she made herself comfortable, clearly at ease in a house that I had designed, a house that was supposed to be our sanctuary. I wanted to scream, but my throat felt tight, like something was strangling me from the inside. Ryan didn't notice. He was too busy looking at her, offering her a drink like everything was normal. I stood frozen behind the kitchen island, my pulse racing in my ears. But then, it happened. The doorbell rang. At first, I thought it was just the wind playing tricks on me. But no, it was too consistent, too deliberate. The sound of it echoed through the empty hall. I held my breath again, unsure of what to do. Should I confront them now? Should I stay hidden and watch? I wasn't sure what I was hoping for, but I knew that whatever happened next would change everything. I didn't have much time to think before the door opened. "Hey, man!" Ryan greeted the man on the doorstep with a casual slap on the shoulder, his voice full of false cheer. "Come on in." I felt my stomach twist. It was him, the husband, the man I had never met in person, but had seen on social media once or twice. Tim, his name echoed in my mind as he stepped inside, his sharp suit looking out of place in this beach house that should have felt like home to me, not to them. Tim smiled, oblivious to the storm brewing in the room. His voice was deep, confident, almost too confident. "This place is nice," he said, glancing around the living room. I couldn't help but think he doesn't even know. He doesn't know that I know. Ryan gave him a tight smile, trying too hard to act like everything was normal. "Yeah, it's been great to get away for the weekend." For a moment, I thought I could just slip out unnoticed, leave the house, let them have their time. But as I stood there in the kitchen, I realized something. I wasn't going anywhere. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about the truth coming to light. As they settled into the living room, the tension between them was palpable. Ryan, trying to act casual, kept glancing at me. Tim seemed completely at ease, oblivious to the fact that I knew everything. He smiled, like he had no clue that the woman he loved was sitting in the other room, making herself comfortable with the man who had broken her heart. I could hear them talking, just idle chatter at first, but then I heard Ryan mention something that made my heart stop. "Yeah, she's a little sensitive these days," Ryan said, his voice dropping slightly. "But we're good. She's not gonna find out." I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to hear him talk about me like that, like I was just some obstacle standing in the way of his happiness. But I couldn't look away. I couldn't stop myself from hearing it. "Good," Tim replied, his voice steady. "As long as we keep it low-key." "She's already suspicious." A cold chill ran down my spine. I couldn't believe it. They were talking about me, my husband, her husband, like we were just pawns in their game. I wanted to walk in there, throw the door open, and confront them both. But then I remembered the second part of their conversation. The part I wasn't prepared for. "She'll be fine once we're out of here," Ryan said, a small laugh escaping his lips. That's when I knew. It wasn't just a casual affair. This was deliberate. This was calculated. They had planned it all. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run out and confront them both. But then, I caught a glimpse of something in the corner of the room. The woman, the mistress, was looking at me through the open doorway. Her eyes met mine, and for a brief moment, everything stood still. She knew I was there. I could feel the heat rising in my chest. The look in her eyes, her knowing, calculating look, pierced me deeper than any of the lies I had been fed for months. She knew I was here. She knew I had seen everything. For a moment, everything seemed to slow down. Ryan's voice in the other room sounded muffled, like I was underwater, but I could still hear every word. I heard the way he chuckled nervously, the way Tim responded with that calm, too casual tone. But none of it mattered. Not anymore. I had to act. I took a deep breath, my hand gripping the edge of the kitchen counter. The cold marble felt like an anchor, grounding me in this moment. I could walk out the back door, disappear into the night, and never look back. But I knew I wasn't going anywhere. Not yet. I wasn't just going to let him get away with this betrayal, this lie, this double life. I steadied myself. As the door to the living room swung open, I stepped into the hallway, just far enough to catch the glimpse of them through the glass. They were talking, but their voices were drowned out by the pounding of my heart in my ears. I couldn't stay in the kitchen any longer. "You have to face this," I told myself. "You have to confront them." I walked into the living room. For a second, the room went silent. Ryan's face drained of color when he saw me. The woman, the one who had stolen my husband, just stared at me, a small smirk tugging at her lips. Tim stood there, his jaw tight, clearly unsure of what to do next. "Emily," Ryan began, his voice shaking. I didn't. I held up my hand, cutting him off. "Don't." I couldn't look at him. Not yet. The hurt in my chest was too raw, too fresh. Instead, I fixed my gaze on her, the woman who had taken everything from me. "Who are you?" I demanded, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. She didn't flinch. In fact, she leaned back against the couch, crossing her legs as if she were at some casual dinner party instead of standing in the home of the woman she'd been sleeping with, her husband. "The name's Sarah," she said, her voice sweet but laced with a venom I could feel even from where I stood. "But you already knew that, didn't you?" I had to swallow my anger. I couldn't let her see me break down. "How long?" I asked, my words barely a whisper, but they cut through the room like a knife. "Long enough," she replied nonchalantly, as though she were talking about the weather. "Long enough to know what he really wanted." And there it was, the truth, laid bare before me. She wasn't just some fling. This wasn't some one-night affair. She had been in my life for longer than I cared to think about. Ryan looked at me then, his eyes full of guilt. But there was something else. There's something I couldn't quite place. Was it relief? Was it fear? "Emily, listen to me," he started, stepping toward me. "I never meant for you to find out this way. I don't need your excuses," I snapped, cutting him off. "I don't need you to tell me why you did it. I need you to tell me when it started. I need to know how long you've been lying to me." I watched as Ryan faltered, his eyes darting between Sarah and me. But all he could do was shake his head. He didn't have an answer, not one that would make any difference now. As I stood there, staring at the man I once loved and the woman who had stolen him from me, I felt my entire world shift. The anger I had been holding back bubbled to the surface. But beneath that anger was something worse. I had been replaced. "Why?" I whispered, barely able to hold it together. "Why her?" Sarah's smirk widened as she slid off the couch and stood, taking a step toward me. "Because she's not the one who's always trying to fix everything. Because she's not the one who always puts him first. And because," she paused, giving me a look that almost felt like a challenge, "she's not the one holding onto a marriage that's been over for years." The words stung, and I felt my heart crack. But I refused to let her see me break. "I'm done," I said firmly, my voice cutting through the tension in the room. I turned to Ryan, my gaze unwavering. "I'm done. But you'll have to live with this. Live with the mess you've made." With that, I turned and walked out, the sound of my heels clicking on the hardwood floor, drowning out everything else. Behind me, I heard the faint echo of Ryan calling my name, but I didn't stop. I wasn't sure where I was going. All I knew was that I wasn't going to stay there, not with them. Not in that house, not in that life. And for the first time in years, I felt like I was finally free. I slammed the door behind me, the sound echoing through the empty hallway, and I didn't look back. I didn't know where I was going, but at that moment, I didn't care. I needed air. I needed space. I needed to get away from everything I had once trusted. My hands shook as I gripped the railing of the stairs, looking out over the darkened beach. The moon hung low in the sky, casting a silver glow over the water. The world felt like it was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. As I walked down the wooden steps, I felt the cool sand beneath my feet, the ocean breeze tangling in my hair. My mind raced, but there was a strange sense of calm. Maybe it was because I knew I had just made the hardest decision of my life, or maybe it was because, for the first time in a long time, I was finally free. But as I stood there, staring out at the dark horizon, the weight of everything still hung over me. Ryan's betrayal, Sarah's smug face, the pain, the lies, and then it hit me. Was it really over? Had I really walked away for good? Or was I just running from the inevitable? I heard footsteps behind me, soft at first, then louder. I didn't need to turn around. I knew who it was. Ryan! He stood at the top of the stairs, his shadow casting long across the porch. He looked different, smaller somehow. He wasn't the man I had once loved. Not anymore. I didn't need to see his face to know the regret was written all over it. Emily, he called, his voice barely above a whisper. Please. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. I don't want your apologies, I said, my voice cold and sharp, like glass breaking. I don't want your promises. You've already made your choice. There was a long silence. The only sound was the crashing of the waves, relentless and unforgiving, just like the reality I was facing. Please, just give me a chance, Ryan said, desperation in his voice. I've made a huge mistake. I don't know what happened. I don't want to lose you. I couldn't believe it. Now he wanted to fix things? After everything? I turned, my eyes locking with his for the first time since I'd walked out of that room. There was no anger left in me, just emptiness. You already lost me, I said, the finality of my words cutting through the night like a knife. I gave you everything, and you threw it all away for someone who didn't care, for someone who doesn't know you like I did. I took a step back, my voice shaking, but I held my ground. I'm done, Ryan. I'm done being your second choice. And with that, I turned and walked away. This time, I didn't look back. As I stepped out into the night, the sound of the waves behind me faded. I felt the weight of the betrayal lift, replaced by something I hadn't felt in a long time: peace. I want to hear from you. What would you have done if this were your situation? Would you have walked away? Or would you have given him another chance? Comment below with your thoughts. I'm dying to know what you would have done in my place.